This first video that I wanted to show everybody is going to be a very simple process of writing up a service request in Field Gateway for a job site and a customer that already exists. And I'm going to do quite a few videos here, each chunking them down to specific scenarios. So this is going to be a job site that exists for a customer that exists. I'll also do videos for a new job site for a new customer. I'll do a video for an existing job site for a new customer. So all sorts of different scenarios, and I'm going to do separate videos for each one so that it's very clear on what we're walking through. To point out again, going back to our map, that this process is going to be through the Field Gateway, and that all feeds into Spectrum. Field Gateway is going to be where we are writing up time and material service requests. It's where we're going to be doing our dispatching, all of the things that go along with the day-to-day operations of running service. We're going to be doing our estimates, or creating estimates within the Top Builder CRM. And again, that all feeds into Spectrum. When that gets accepted for the smaller quoted jobs, we'll dispatch those through Field Gateway, and once you accept it here, it actually will automatically feed into. But for this one, making it real easy, this is going to be a customer and a job site that already exists. And to do that, I'm actually just going to steal a job that we wrote up in UGI and just replicate all of this information so you can see where all the pieces will fit into the new system. So with that said, where we're going is the Field Gateway, and that is right here. And to create a new work order, up at the top you'll see a button that says New Work Order. You just click on that, and this screen will pop up. Now, one thing I'm going to bring out right away, and they're working on this problem, but there is a small glitch, and that is this cost center field is not automatically populating. You can see when I click here, nothing happens. And until they can fix that, the first thing you're going to want to do when you get in here is click this Search Customer button. Just click it once, and you'll see as soon as you do that, this pops up. And it'll generate some information. You can just ignore that. But in order to get this to pop up, we got to click this Search Customer button. So from there, one of the things that you'll see is you've got a lot of different ways that you can choose to search by. You can choose by customer name, if you know the customer's ID, which would be this right here. If you knew what that was, you could search by that. If you knew the customer street address, you can search by that. You can even search by customer phone number. So if you knew specifically that this was the phone number, you could do a search by that. You can, down here, search by the site. So if you knew what the job site ID was, that's going to be this right here. If you knew what the site name was, the job site name, if you knew what this job site street address, which is typically what we're most used to searching by, is this address right here. You can search by that, but you can also search by site phone if they knew that. So there's a lot of different search capabilities that you have to do. One thing I missed here is at the top, it's always going to ask you what the work order type is. So for time and material service requests, it's always going to be site type. In fact, I don't see a situation where you're going to actually be creating a job type work order. This is going to be a work order for our large project jobs, and that should be done automatically when the job is accepted. So I don't think that you're going to have to do this. So almost always you're going to be doing site type. These are going to be work orders for time and material. Or even small quoted jobs. So this is, you're always going to want to let it just default to site type. From there, once you know what you're looking for, you'll begin searching, and ultimately what you're looking to do is tie your search results together here, making sure that you have the right job site tied to the right customer. So for instance, if I'm looking at this one, this is Redford Union High School. So I can do a couple of different searches here. I can go to the site name, and I can do a search for Redford Union. You can see I've already done one. I do a search for Redford Union, and then down here it pops up with all of the different Redford Unions that are in our system. At that point I see, okay, yep, this is the one I'm looking for. I choose that one, and what you'll see is it'll automatically populate with the customer that it's tied to. If I wanted to do a search by customer name, I could also do Redford Union, do a search by customer. That's going to pop up everything with Redford Union as the customer, and then it's going to give you an option of all of the job sites that are then tied to that to be able to search by that. So I could do that as well. So again, a lot of better search capability within the new system compared to the old one. Remembering the first thing you need to do when you come in here is click that search customer to populate this cost center. I'm anticipating that's fixed by the time we go live, but for right now, for practice purposes, that's something you're going to need to do. So once I've got the correct job site tied to the correct customer, I'm ready to start entering my work order information. So at this point in the process, I've got my job site and my customer information, and I'm going to start going through and putting the information that's in here. So this one's a backflow test due around end of September. Chuck called it in around 20 tests. So in here, I would type that. This is where your trouble information would go. Backflow testing called in by Chuck due at the end of September around 20 tests. So that's where we're putting in our call information. What's the problem as the customer called it in? Working down, work order type, you'll see that there's time and material service, there's quoted service. So these are going to be our small quotes, non-job cost jobs quotes. And even those could be larger, to be honest with you. They could be $50,000, but it's going to be anything that we're not progress billing, doesn't have a walkthrough date, as we discussed, creating that split between what's a job cost job and what's just a quoted service job. If it's maintenance, warranty, time and material jobs, you're never going to use this. Quoted jobs, this is where those are those large quotes, walkthroughs, progress billing, bid packs, so on and so forth. And then warranty, if there's a warranty for a quoted job, a large project job that we're going out on. Most of the time, it's going to be quoted service or time and material service or quoted service. In this case, it's simply a service request, so I'm going to put in time and material service. We're batting around the idea of creating an actual backflow category, but for right now, we would classify that as just time and material service. Going down here into the priority, I do want you to get into the habit of choosing this. So in this case, you can just set it as a status. Just realizing that maintenance is spelled wrong, but you can choose it as a normal status. We'll go into the next step, which is lead source. You can leave this blank if they specifically say, I got your name from, or whatever it might be, or in general, repeat customer if we've done work for them before. Salesperson, you can leave that blank. We're not utilizing that. And then the cost center. So cost center here, this is something similar in UGI to the problem and the bill table. So when you enter this up here, commercial plumbing service, which is essentially kind of what you're entering here, it's telling to use a certain bill table. Well, here we're going to just specifically tell it which bill table we want to use, and in here it's called cost center. So on this job, this is going to be a plumbing work order, so it's plumbing service. That's going to be classified as plumbing work orders. So I would just go down here, click plumbing work orders. If the customer has a PO number, you would use that, so I can put that in here. And then it's always going to default to the date and the time that the work order is created. You can leave these as is. Don't have to touch that because this isn't when it's actually going to be scheduled for. That's going to be down here. So in each one, for each work order, we're going to create an assignment, and the assignments are what go to the technicians and get put on the dispatch board. And I'll show you what that looks like when we get into the dispatching process. But for right now, every time you create a service order, you're going to want to create an assignment, and we're just going to not put it on a technician. We're going to create it as an open assignment, which then will show up on the dispatch board. And I'll show you what that looks like in a second. So down here, creating an assignment, it's going to automatically be checked. You just want to leave that. You can go up here for the description and use the same one. Just simply copy that and paste it right down here. Use the same one. If there was any additional notes, you can see it'll only take so many characters. If there are any additional notes, you could put those in as well, but this is just going to take the basic information. of what's here. If there's specific information at the end that got cut off, you'll want to put that in here. So backflow testing, maybe we take this out, called in, who it was called in by, and do at the end of September. What I want to get in there is 20 tests, right? So I can modify that to make sure that we're getting in what's important. Equipment, that's going to be phase 2 of this, so you can leave that blank. We don't need to deal with that. And now here's where we're going to want to get into the scheduling. So if they wanted this for today or another day, you can click on here, choose whatever day you wanted to schedule it for. I'm going to leave it for today because I want it to show up on our board so I can show you where it goes as soon as you finish the call. You can put a time in there. This is going to be changed by the dispatcher anyways, but if there is a specific time that they're putting in there, you can put that on there. And then every call, every assignment is required to have a duration, so it won't let you create the work order unless you put a duration in there. So for right now, just use 2 as your default, and you can use that every single time that you're creating an order. So at that point, I've got my customer, I've got my job site, put in the call information for the work order. It's time and material service, a normal priority. For a repeat customer. Salesperson, you can leave blank. We're not using that. Our cost center is going to be a plumbing work order. Their customer's purchase order is 1, 2, 4, 5, 6. We created this work order on 8:30, 9:30 a.m. It's also going to stamp who created it, so we'll know who in the office took the call. After that, we're creating a blank assignment to be determined which technician it's going to be. If you wanted to actually assign it to a technician that they specifically want a certain tech out, you can do that. You can just click in here and actually assign it. But if you leave it blank, we can always assign it automatically or manually to a technician later on in the process. This is our description that's going to be on the technician's assignment. It's going to be scheduled tentatively for this date. You'll see what that looks like. And we're just going to use 2 hours as our estimated duration. From there, you click Create Work Order. And it's going to tell you that this work order here was assigned. And we are good to go. So at that point, what happens is, and I'm not going to go into the actual process, but to show you where that shows up, if I go now to Dispatch, and I go to Unassigned, at any point in time, we're going to be able to see exactly what hasn't been put on the board. So this, by the end of the day, should be empty. And all I simply have to do at that point is, if I'm looking at this job, there's backflow testing called do it 20 tests, Redford High School. Okay, great. I can take that and I can simply drop it onto a technician's board. And at that point, it's now assigned and it will actually show up on his tablet, and he's able to do what he needs to do in the field once he's ready to go on that call. So again, anything over here that is left, that means that we haven't addressed it, and we're going to need to make sure that we get it on the board or rescheduled for another day so that it gets taken care of. So at the end of the day, this should be empty over here in the unassigned. Everything should be completed here, and we are good to go. So that's just how we create a new work order within the system. Wanted to walk you through that. That's a very simple process of where we already had a customer, already had a job site. As I mentioned, I'm going to do some other videos where it's a new customer and a new job site. It's an existing customer with a new job site. All sorts of different scenarios, but I'm going to chunk those down into individual videos. So I highly recommend you jump into Field Gateway, just start creating fake work orders, just start creating work orders so that you can get in the process of going through that. One caveat I will say to this, it can be a little confusing at first if you start searching by address 31625, but you haven't chosen street address here. So if you do a search and it doesn't populate with anything, you probably have the wrong search by. So if I do a search by site ID and I'm putting in an address, it's not going to come up with what you would expect, right? So if I did a site ID and I type 444 Michigan and I do search site, no sites found because I'm searching by site ID. So just make sure that you're searching by the information you're putting in corresponds to what you've got as a search by. So have fun with this, try it out. Practice, 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 get familiar with it, and I'll have some other videos coming.